The politicization of science has contributed to significant misinformation and controversy about scientific issues, such as climate change, vaccines, and the pandemic. This distrust has harmed public health and prevented progress in addressing serious environmental issues. What is the responsibility of the government to ensure that high quality and accurate information is available to the public so that they can make informed decisions? I'm John Hoffman, a professor of biology, and in this video we will consider what free speech is protected by the First Amendment. Why is misinformation so dangerous? And then finally, how is misinformation challenged? Stick around to the end of this video when we consider, should the government confront misinformation? Is this censorship or promoting public safety? The First Amendment of the United States Constitution, adopted in 1791, states in part that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. However, while the Supreme Court continues to reinforce that free and open discussions of important issues are essential in a free society, there can be limits placed on topics where the potential harms outweigh an individual's First Amendment right to free speech. Restrictions are placed on topics such as child pornography, defamation through making false statements, and fighting words likely to incite an immediate breach of peace. In 1919, Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes introduced the analogy commonly considered as an example of a limit to the freedom of expression when he stated, "The most stringent protection of free speech would not protect a man in falsely shouting fire in a theater and causing a panic." This statement has been interpreted to mean that speech can be limited when it creates a clear and present danger. So does misinformation pose a clear and present danger if there is a high likelihood of harm? The spread of false or misleading information can be viewed as a public health threat, resulting in vaccine hesitancy and the pursuit of non-evidence-based therapies to treat potentially life-threatening diseases. In the United States, we are already seeing a decrease in vaccination and an increase in severe but preventable infectious diseases such as measles. Measles is a serious, deadly, but vaccine-preventable disease. About 40% of the patients with measles will develop complications, with 1 to 3% of those patients developing encephalitis, which can kill or leave patients with permanent neurological damage. Less than 70 years ago, over 750,000 people in the United States contracted measles. Within 5 years of the measles vaccine becoming available, the number of cases was reduced by 95%. And by the year 2000, the disease was declared eliminated from the United States. Preventing the spread of measles requires herd immunity, in which 95% of the population is fully vaccinated to protect those that can't be vaccinated for medical or religious reasons. In 2023, the MMR vaccination rates in the United States were down to 93.1%. Worldwide, the measles vaccination rate for children by their first birthday is down to 83%. While the number of measles cases in the United States remain low, the risk continues to rise. In 2023, 51 countries had large disruptive outbreaks. A significant contributor to the acceptance of misinformation is the elevation of random events and personal anecdotes to be comparable to evidence-based science that results from hundreds or thousands of observations or data points obtained in controlled settings. To illustrate these points, we can consider the alleged link between the measles, mumps, rubella, or MMR vaccine and the development of autism. The 1998 scientific article that made the claim was based on the observations of only 12 children. The paper was later retracted because of evidence of scientific misconduct, including falsified data and unethical practices. In contrast, studies completed to examine the claim reviewed the vaccinations of millions of children and found no evidence linking the MMR vaccine and the development of autism. Similarly, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, managed by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, is designed as a surveillance system to collect reports of any possible adverse event that could be related to vaccination. These reports are often incomplete, inaccurate, coincidental, and unverified. Yet opponents of vaccination efforts use this information to elevate these unconfirmed reports to claim a link between vaccinations and other health concerns. According to the World Health Organization, childhood vaccines have been used safely for years and are viewed as one of the best ways to prevent diseases. It's estimated that childhood vaccines save 3.5 to 5 million lives per year. Despite the successes of vaccination programs in promoting public health, significant and compelling misinformation is easily accessible on the internet and social media. A 2021 study conducted by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a United Kingdom, United States nonprofit and non-governmental agency, identified 12 online personalities that were responsible for 65% of the COVID-19 misinformation found on Facebook and Twitter. In 2021, Surgeon General Murthy issued a report urging all Americans to help slow the spread of health misinformation during the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond, and stated health misinformation is a serious threat to public health. During that time, major social media platforms were acting to identify and, in some cases, remove misinformation. Despite these efforts, individual user interactions with misinformation remained high, and since then, some platforms have stopped content moderation. In a press release from the Children's Health Defense, an anti-vaccine nonprofit formerly led by current presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., emphasized the importance of the First Amendment and stated a government that has the power to silence its critics has license for any kind of atrocity. But the Supreme Court has always balanced the importance of free expression provided by the First Amendment with the potential for harm and does not protect all forms of expression or speech. A counterargument to moderation of content deemed to be misinformation is that the government and scientific experts should mount a vigorous social media and news campaign to get accurate information out to the public. This view is supported by the words of Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, the same person that made the statement about shouting fire in a crowded theater. Holmes stated that instead of restricting the expression of ideas, the conflicting ideas, ideally the facts challenging the misinformation, should be challenged so that the alternative viewpoint is better reached by the free trade in ideas. That the best test of truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the market. And that truth is the only ground upon which their wishes safely can be carried out. That, at any rate, is the theory of the Constitution. But as the old saying goes, a lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. Is it reasonable to expect untrained members of the public to critically examine the accuracy and reliability of two conflicting claims, often presented as little more than a soundbite? A 2023 study reported that refuting false science-related misinformation was generally unsuccessful in reducing misconceptions. In contrast to claims made in social media posts about COVID-19 vaccination risks, over 13 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been safely administered since 2021 and are estimated to have saved 14.4 million lives globally. As with all medications, some people may experience minor, short-duration side effects. More rarely, severe side effects are possible, but are generally less severe than the effects of the disease. A 2022 Pew Research Forum study that has been validated in other peer-reviewed studies shows that many more deaths in counties with predominantly greater numbers of voters for Trump in the 2020 presidential election. There's no evidence that the individuals in these counties had higher risk factors than citizens in the other counties. So these individuals most adversely affected by COVID-19 during this time were likely acting based on the acceptance of the misinformation stating that vaccines were harmful, and therefore were less likely to be vaccinated or take preventative measures, and this resulted in a much higher death rate. As we consider the ethical dilemma in science for this week, please leave your comments below on whether or not the government should confront misinformation. Is this censorship or promoting public health? Before we can answer that question, here are some additional prompts to get the thought process or discussion going. Does the government have an obligation to protect public health? Should the government combat false or misleading information that threatens public health? Is it the responsibility of content providers, such as social media platforms and news agencies, to provide the context of false, misleading, or controversial misinformation? In the description below is additional information, references, and a link to a lesson plan to accompany this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe for more conversations on the ethical impact of science and technology on society. Until next time, stay curious and be informed.